A newly leaked document from inside Russia's defense ministry is exposing the staggering toll of Putin's war in Ukraine. Hundreds of thousands of casualties just this year alone. The scale of those losses is driving a demographic collapse that could haunt Russia for generations. We'll take a look at the numbers and the lasting damage. A newly leaked document from inside Russia's Ministry of Defense is giving the world something that we've rarely seen since the start of Putin's war in Ukraine, and that would be an honest look at the scale of Russian losses. For nearly 3 years, Moscow has gone to great lengths to keep those numbers secret. The Kremlin tightly censors casualty reports, bans independent journalists from the front lines, and even prosecutes soldiers' families for speaking publicly about their dead. But this document, verified and published by a Ukrainian organization called I Want to Live, paints a grim picture that lines up with what Western intelligence agencies have been saying for months. According to the leaked figures, since January of this year alone, Russian forces in Ukraine have suffered more than 280,000 casualties, a combination of those killed and wounded in combat. That figure roughly aligns with recent Western intelligence assessments, which estimate that Russia has suffered between 900,000 and 1 million total casualties, including roughly 250,000 killed, since the invasion began in 2022. Now, these aren't just abstract statistics. They represent a devastating depletion of Russia's fighting-age male population and a scale of loss the country hasn't seen in generations. To put it in perspective, the Soviet Union lost around 15,000 troops over nearly a decade in Afghanistan. In the First Chechen War during the 1990s, roughly 5,000 Russian soldiers were killed. In the Second Chechen War, maybe half that. Even the bloody campaign in Syria, fought with airstrikes and proxies, cost Moscow just a few dozen troops. By contrast, the war in Ukraine has become, by most accounts, Russia's deadliest conflict since World War II. It's also been fought under vastly different circumstances. In the 1940s, Russia was a nation of nearly 200 million, with large families and a birth rate that could replenish its armies. Today, the Russian Federation's population is closer to 145 million and shrinking. And that's where an interesting analysis by Forbes adds another layer to this story. The outlet reports that these battlefield losses are now accelerating what was already a severe demographic crisis inside Russia. Before the war, the country was already losing around 700,000 people per year due to low birth rates, emigration, and poor health outcomes. But the war in Ukraine has intensified every one of those trends. The men being killed in Ukraine aren't retirees or prisoners. They're overwhelmingly in their 20s and 30s, the very age group that anchors a nation's workforce and drives its birth rate. Many of them come from rural or minority regions like Dagestan or the far reaches of Siberia, where the government has disproportionately drawn recruits to avoid unrest in the major cities. And those regions are now being hollowed out. Meanwhile, hundreds of thousands of educated urban Russians, engineers, IT workers, young families, have fled the country to avoid the draft or the economic fallout of the war. It's a mass exodus that the Kremlin can't easily reverse. Demographers inside Russia quietly say that the country could be facing its steepest population decline since the collapse of the Soviet Union. The labor force is shrinking, fertility rates are at their lowest in modern history, and the gender imbalance, already pronounced, will become even more severe. The social consequences are enormous. With fewer young men, rural economies will continue to decay, and already stressed pension and healthcare systems will come under even greater strain. The Kremlin has tried to offset the losses by offering cash incentives for childbirth and encouraging immigration from Central Asia, but those measures barely dent the overall decline. It's also a political problem. The Russian government has always leaned heavily on nationalism and the memory of victory in World War II to unite the country. But as the body count rises and the economic toll deepens, that narrative becomes harder to sustain. What was once sold as a limited, quote, special military operation has turned into a generational wound, one that cuts across families, communities, and entire regions. The leaked Defense Ministry document may not change the course of the war, but it shatters the illusion that Russia can absorb endless losses without consequence. For decades, Russian leaders from Stalin to Putin have treated manpower as an infinite resource. This war may be the moment that illusion finally collapses. All right, coming up next, President Trump hints at sending Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine as Moscow threatens retaliation. And Israel says it has stopped an Iranian weapons plot in the West Bank. I'll be right back. Hey, Mike Baker here. Let me take just a moment to talk about your personal finances. Now, I'm sure you've seen that the Fed has finally dropped interest rates, and that's great news for American homeowners. Expenses have been a major burden on families, of course. Wages are flat, prices keep climbing, and for many, the only way to make ends meet has been to lean on credit cards. But that cycle of high-interest debt, well, it makes it hard to stay ahead. So if you're a homeowner, I want you to call my friends over at American Financing. Right now, interest rates have dropped. Many homeowners are seeing options in the low fives. Compare that to credit cards charging rates in the 20s or higher. There's an easy path to see how you can finally put your hard-earned equity to work for you. American Financing can help you pay off that expensive debt, free up your cash flow, and keep your budget under control. Their salary-based mortgage consultants are saving customers an average of $800 a month. And if you get started today, you may even be able to delay your next mortgage payment. Take control. Call American Financing today, 866-885-1881. Again, that number, 866-885-1881. Or just visit americanfinancing.net/PDB. Welcome back to the PDB. The question of whether Ukraine will receive long-range Tomahawk missiles may soon be answered. President Trump said he's, quote, sort of made a decision, end quote, on the sale, a choice that could give Kyiv the range to strike deep inside Russia. In the Oval Office earlier this week, Trump told reporters that while his mind was, quote, pretty much made up, he was looking for clarity on how Ukraine intends to use the weapons. The president said, quote, where they are sending them, I guess I will have to ask that question. I'm not looking to see an escalation, end quote. Now, it's a delicate balance, obviously, one that's hovered over Washington for weeks, ever since President Zelensky from Ukraine made a personal appeal on the sidelines of last month's UN General Assembly to Trump. In an interview with Axios, Zelensky said he asked for an additional weapons system that could force Russian President Vladimir Putin to the negotiating table, quote, perhaps without even having to use it. Two officials familiar with that sideline meeting later confirmed the weapon in question was indeed the Tomahawk. It's a precision-guided cruise missile with a maximum range of roughly 1,550 miles. By comparison, the U.S. supplied Army Tactical Missile System rockets, the ATACMS from the Biden era, can travel just 190 miles. Analysts at the Washington-based think tank, the Institute for the Study of War, estimate that nearly 2,000 Russian military targets would fall within the Tomahawk's range. And Moscow isn't hiding its alarm. Kremlin mouthpiece Dmitry Peskov warned against what he called a, quote, new escalation, stressing the Tomahawks are, quote, missiles that can also be nuclear. So this is indeed a serious escalation, he said. Well, to be fair, Dmitry, the serious escalation was when Putin decided to invade a sovereign nation. Russia's deputy foreign minister piled on, saying the diplomatic momentum from Trump's August summit with Putin in Alaska had been, quote, largely exhausted for a while now since peace talks stalled. He called the potential sale of Tomahawks, quote, a step toward direct confrontation. And Putin has oscillated between dismissal and defiance on this matter. The missiles, Putin said, won't change the balance of power on the battlefield, but their delivery would mark, quote, a qualitatively new stage of escalation. Complicating matters, if the sale is greenlit, is how the system would even be operated. Tomahawks are solely operated via U.S. personnel and technical oversight, an issue that both Washington and Moscow have identified as a potential red line. Inside the U.S. government, senior officials are weighing the operational and diplomatic implications, including whether to impose strict conditions on their use or delegate operational control to Ukrainian forces. Trump's envoy to Ukraine, retired Lieutenant General Keith Kellogg, seemed to hint at the president's evolving thought process since last month, when he told Fox News that Trump had already authorized Ukraine to carry out long-range strikes with American-made weapons, declaring that, quote, there are no such things as sanctuaries. That line has since sparked a policy debate in Washington, with some arguing that expanding Kyiv's reach would deter Russia, while others fear it would risk widening the war's footprint. Okay, shifting to the Middle East. Israel's Shin Bet says it uncovered a major Iranian smuggling route running from Syria through Jordan into the West Bank, part of what the security agency describes as Tehran's ongoing campaign to arm terror operatives focused on striking the Jewish state. According to the agency, the seized cache was extensive: 29 Claymore-type explosives, 4 drones, 2 of which were rigged with explosives, 15 anti-tank rockets with an RPG launcher, 20 hand grenades, more than 50 handguns, over a dozen assault rifles, and roughly 750 bullets. I believe there was also a partridge in a pear tree. The Shin Bet said this case began months ago when IDF troops detained a weapons dealer near the Ramallah area of the West Bank. His interrogation opened the first crack in the network. That was a break that ultimately led investigators to the smuggling cell and the cache itself. The agency has not disclosed exactly where the interception occurred for security purposes. Israeli intelligence traced the smuggling effort to 2 elite divisions of Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. Oh, there they are again, the IRGC. Unit 4000, the covert operations arm of the IRGC intelligence organization, and Unit 18840, the Quds Force branch, operating in Syria under the command of the IRGC Shadow Unit 840. Are you keeping track of all these unit numbers? That division is believed to oversee assassinations and weapons transfers to proxy groups across the Middle East. Both units, the Shin Bet confirms, were also tied to weapons smuggling attempts, also thwarted in March and November of 2024. 2 IRGC operatives involved in those plots were killed in Israeli airstrikes in Lebanon in July of this year. The agency said in a statement, quote, "This shipment, like its predecessors, it's part of an ongoing Iranian effort to undermine security in the region by arming terrorist cells on the ground, whose purpose is to carry out attacks against Israelis and IDF troops," end quote. Shin Bet said this seizure confirmed Iran's broader objective is to flood the West Bank with advanced weaponry, effectively transforming it into a second front against Israel. It's an escalation that intelligence has warned about since the onset of the Gaza war. Weapon smuggling has long haunted Israel's eastern frontier with Jordan. It's a vast stretch forming the Jewish state's tri-country border with Syria. Unlike Israel's fortified borders with Lebanon, Syria, and Egypt, much of the Jordanian border remains thinly guarded, an inviting corridor for traffickers backed by the mullah's proxies. In response, the IDF established the 96th Gilad Division in June. It's a regional command dedicated to securing the northern half of the Jordanian border in attempts to intercept smuggling operations before they reach the West Bank. The Israeli Defense Ministry also pledged new fencing and surveillance systems along that frontier to close one of the Jewish state's last open flanks. Israeli security officials believe that the Iranian regime coordinates its weapons transfers through Syria and Lebanon, where IRGC units operate along with Hezbollah and affiliated militias. From there, the shipments are routed across Jordan using local criminal networks that conceal the weapons in commercial cargo or private vehicles. The latest intercepted shipment underscores Iran's determination to pursue their long-standing goal of destroying Israel through their proxies. If the region, frankly, is to ever have long-term stability, the people of Iran will have to decide that they've had enough of the repressive mullahs and their brutal IRGC. Okay, coming up in the back of the brief, authorities say they've caught the man behind California's devastating Palisades Fire. He's accused of setting the blaze that left 12 people dead and thousands of homes and businesses destroyed. More on that when we come back. Hey, Mike Baker here, with a great way to help you maintain a healthy weight. Now, did you know that by the time the average person hits 60 years of age, they've lost and regained several hundred pounds? Doctors call it weight cycling, and half of Americans reportedly do it. And if you do it enough, well, you're at risk of diabetes, liver damage, heart attack, and stroke. Weight cycling is when you lose 10 pounds or so, but then you put the pounds back, plus a couple more. And that puts tremendous strain on your organs and could lead to serious health issues. The bottom line is most people need help to stop weight cycling. And here's a great way to do it. I'm talking about lean. That's Lean. Check this out. Non-prescription lean was created by doctors. It's an oral supplement. It's not an injectable. And the science behind lean is impressive. Its studied ingredients target weight loss in 3 powerful ways. Lean helps maintain healthy blood sugar, it helps control appetite and cravings, and it helps burn fat by converting that fat into energy. And burning fat helps keep the weight off, of course. So if you want to lose meaningful weight at a healthy pace and keep it off, add lean to your diet and exercise lifestyle. Get 20% off when you enter PDB at takelean.com. That's code PDB at takelean.com. In today's Back of the Brief, federal prosecutors have announced the arrest of the man accused of starting California's deadliest wildfire on record, the Palisades Fire. 29-year-old Jonathan Rinderknecht, a Florida-based Uber driver with what investigators describe as an obsession with dystopian imagery and despair, is now charged with malicious destruction by means of fire. Authorities say that Rinderknecht intentionally sparked the inferno that tore through the Pacific Palisades in Los Angeles on New Year's Day, killing 12 people and destroying more than 6,000 homes and buildings. The blaze caused an estimated $150 billion in damage. It's the most devastating wildfire in the city's history. According to the criminal complaint, Rinderknecht dropped off passengers near a hiking trail shortly after midnight, appearing, quote, agitated and angry. Moments later, he allegedly set a small brush fire that firefighters quickly extinguished. But the fire continued smoldering underground for days before reigniting into the catastrophic Palisades blaze. Investigators say Rinderknecht didn't just set the fire, he documented it. After sparking the initial flames, he allegedly filmed the scene on his phone while listening to a rap song whose music video depicts the artist setting fires. Court papers also reveal he had watched that same video repeatedly in the days leading up to the attack. Prosecutors say that as the flames spread, Rinderknecht called 911 to report the blaze, even as he typed into ChatGPT, quote, "Are you at fault if a fire is lit because of your cigarettes?" He then followed responding fire trucks back to the scene, recording several videos as crews battled to contain the inferno. Those videos were later recovered from his phone. Evidence also shows that months before the fire, Rinderknecht had used ChatGPT to generate a dystopian painting of a burning city divided into panels, one side depicting a forest fire, another a crowd fleeing in terror. Rinderknecht initially denied involvement, but allegedly revealed details about the fire's origin that had not been made public. He was arrested Tuesday in Florida and will be extradited to California to stand trial. If convicted, prosecutors say the malicious intent behind the Palisades fire could make him eligible for the death penalty. And that, my friends, is the President's Daily Brief for Thursday, the 9th of October. Now, if you have any questions or comments, and I do hope you do, well, please reach out to me at pdb@thefirsttv.com. And, of course, don't forget to check out our YouTube channel. I hope you'll take a look at that and subscribe. You can find that on YouTube, of course, at President's Daily Brief. I'm Mike Baker, and I'll be back later today with the PDB Afternoon Bulletin. Until then, stay informed, stay safe, stay cool.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button and leave a comment, a really positive, nice, and kind comment. That would be appreciated. And if you're not already subscribed to our channel, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our daily updates.